would you mind throwing numbers on like what the business is doing roughly around monthly or revenue? Or...
Yeah. I mean, we've grown over 200K MRR.
This is my boy Tyler, and he runs a company that makes $200,000 every single month. Now, before a business takes off, there's usually a time period that makes or breaks anybody that's starting something big. And that's most likely the boat that you are in right now, when you're not really sure whether you're doing even works or if it's even worth doing. So I tried to focus and dig my questions around that time period for him, so that way you guys can get the most practical value out of basically what he did, and that way you can take it and apply it to your journey right now, whether it's an AI automation or whatever business that you're trying to get off the ground. Right? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. Tyler Woodall, based out of South Carolina here in the States. For the past few years, have been running a virtual assistant staffing company. My note taker just joined. Prior to that, ran an independent insurance agency, grew it, eventually sold the business. And so most of what we do on the VA side has been staffing for insurance agencies.
And you said, look, you've been running that for how long?
Coming up on 3 years now.
So talk to me about it. When you first started in the beginning, what made you jump into the VA side, and almost what was the opportunity that you really saw back there?
Yeah, it was purely organic to start. I had hired a bunch of virtual assistants to run back-end operations inside my insurance agency. And I run a Facebook group where every week we have a bunch of agents that all join. We talk about, here's our headaches, here's what we're struggling with. And I just started showing people, here's how I'm training virtual assistants and having them do stuff for me. And agents just kept asking for me to help them do the same thing. And so that's how the business started. Never had an intention of going and starting a VA staffing company. I started doing it February of 2.5 years ago, and just kind of took off to the point where eventually I sold the insurance agency just to focus on the VA side. Really? So grew really quickly. Yeah.
Would you mind throwing numbers on like what the business is doing roughly around monthly or revenue?
Yeah. I mean, we've grown over 200K MRR.
So I'm going to assume that a lot of people that are going to be watching this are going to be sort of in the beginning stages of this entire journey, right? And maybe it's not applying to specifically VAs, but I feel like entrepreneurs, no matter what kind of business they're starting, whether it's AI or VAs or insurance or marketing, whatever it is, there's usually that drive in the beginning that's like push, 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 and you have no idea what you're doing is working, or if it's even worth it, or if the problem you're focused on is actually, a problem that should be solved, or what the market is. I'm going to take you back to those days, okay? Those days where VA hasn't really taken off yet. Maybe even insurance hasn't taken off yet. That version of you back then, what made you push through to get to where you are at right now? What were the big turning points? What were the key takeaways in terms of not just work-wise, but mentality-wise, and just kind of like, if you were to look back at yourself and tell yourself a lesson, what would that be?
Yeah, I've always been super entrepreneurial, always knew I wanted to start my own business. I ran a couple different projects in college. I enjoyed the idea of hard work. In insurance, I was busting my tail. Like, I was really getting after it. I would make $150 every single day trying to get businesses to sign up. And so 150 is not that many, but cold calling every single day just built a lot of grit. And then outside of that, like, it just progressively got to the point where I wasn't happy running that business. Did not enjoy it, was kind of miserable, felt like I was working all the time, didn't enjoy my life. And then came to the point where I had this dog who was about to turn 15, had to put him down. And I was just moping, like, it really wrecked me. And in that, I was like, you know what? Like, why am I doing all this for a life that I don't like? I'm going to make some changes. And I just started doing the VA thing. I was like, I'm going to go all in on this, burn the boats. And so decided I was going to sell the business, decided I was going to move, start traveling, all this stuff. And so I just really locked in for a little over 6 months. Like, later that week, I went to my office and I've got this like 6-foot wide whiteboard, and I listed out, what does my dream life look like? Every piece of it. Like, what's my day look like? Who do I talk to? What do I wear? Where do I live? What do I eat? Like, and then put dollars beside it. What would it cost to live this life? And once I had that number, I said, okay, I'm going to do everything it takes and not sleep until I hit that number. And within 6 months, I want to be able to remove myself from the business. And so I just started grinding. There were a lot, I was averaging at least 70 hours a week, but there were a lot of, I remember one week I clocked 94 hours. Like I just lived at my office. And 6 months later, sure enough, like I hit that goal. And started traveling. And so I was still single at this point. So I was just bouncing around the world, doing solo trips, like went around the world a couple of times. And then ultimately got to the point where I was like, okay, vanity, vanity, like I've achieved success. This isn't really worth much without somebody to spend it with. And so it was really funny. Like I made this mental decision. I'm not going to keep waiting on life. Like I was waiting for a partner so that I could go build a house. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to buy some land. I'm going to build a house. The day I flew home from one of these around the world trips, closed on my property and ran into this girl I'd went on dates with years ago. Fast forward 9 months, we got married and
That's
whole nine
wonderful, man.
yards. But yeah, it's
That's
a fun
gotta bring
story.
her back to you. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So I want to take you back to that. You mentioned something interesting, the whiteboard days. Okay, I feel like a lot of people are in those whiteboard days, and those whiteboard days are. Are you an anime guy, by the way? Do you watch
Yeah.
anime? No.
I mean, I know what it is, but I don't watch it.
Usually in anime, these characters go through this training arc, right, where they have to, for a long duration of time, endure some level of certain uncertainty, pain, discipline, right, which is really that time period. And I feel like every entrepreneur who's made something has gone through that. I've had my own version of that whiteboard period for about a year, uh, and this is the kind of stuff that's not really talked about much, right? It's those moments where it's just you, yourself, and that whiteboard or that note taker, whatever it is that you're on. And I actually like to use a lot of visual platforms because I'm a visual guy. I can't just draw everything on a whiteboard. Though I did use a whiteboard for a while, but I was using things like Whimsical and all these little diagrams just to kind of put them all into place. But that time period, right? Um, I want to say when you're in that room, right, and you set a timer for yourself and this many hours, um, what made you, I want to say, not leave the room without having to have done something? And what was your mechanism for knowing what to do in that 6 months? How did you plan this out? Did it happen to be 6 months, or was 6 months was just the duration? I know we kind of like to create a roadmap, right? But I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of somebody trying to create that roadmap. How do they know? Is it just instinct where you knew this is the things that I wanted to do and here's what I wanted to create? And then
Um,
built around that, or did you create more of a structured approach where you had maybe different sprints where you're like, okay, month one I'm gonna 100% focus on this, month two I'm gonna focus on this? What was the breakdown of that 6 month period for you?
Yeah. So 6 months just kind of worked out. I had set a goal, decided I wanted to live that dream life in 6 months, but that was just kind of arbitrary. And then I just worked every minute I could up until that point. And when I finally looked up, I was like, wow, I've surpassed my goal. Why am I not doing any of the stuff that I decided was my ideal life? So really during that period, it was just, I really didn't have a whole lot else to do. So I would get up every morning, work out at 6. I would go grab some breakfast, go to the office, and then some days I would go next door to my office and get lunch. Some days I would just keep working. I'd work until about 5:30. I'd go to the track, either go for a 4 mile run or walk, and then I'd go home, shower, and work on my laptop until I was tired and fell asleep. And then the next day I'd do it all over again. And so it was really just, I didn't have anything else to do. I was single, nothing else like was on my mind other than I have this big problem where I'm not where I want to be. And I know the only way to get there is doing a ton of work. Let's just cram it all in right now. Outside of that, as far as knowing what to work on, that was just getting in the right rooms. So there were some guys that owned a mastermind called highticket.com. I
Mhm.
went and joined it. So most of these guys were online coaches, but I was in the room with other people that were really successful. And so most of the guys were doing at least like 40K a month in revenue. And so I could get around other people that were successful and kind of take pieces away from them
Mhm.
And then through this process, I started following this guy. I think his name's Matt Shields. Started an agency doing marketing for real estate agents. And I'd seen on his story one day that he was going to be speaking at an event in Miami like a week later. And so I bought a ticket, flew down. Come to find out, it was Joel Kaplan's event for Agency Lab.
Mm.
And so I'm in this room with 100 different marketing agencies. And there's all these people going up, getting awards for 100K a month, and like all these different people that had set these goals. And so I wasn't a marketing agency, but the client acquisition methods are the same. Like the way that they were going to run ads to get clients, it would work for me too. And so I started talking to a few of those people. Joel did an offer where if you signed up, if you did a paid in full, you would get a coaching call with Joel, Sergio, one other guy, Joe, and Isaac. Isaac runs all the ads for Joel Kaplan. And so I paid in full just for that call with Isaac. So we scheduled the call. I set up some ads. Don't know what I'm doing, but I watched all their videos, set some up as best I could, and then scheduled my call with Isaac because I wanted us to have something to talk about. I just didn't want to just ask questions that I didn't understand. And so we spent the whole call. I only did it for 24 minutes. I wanted to leave myself some buffer. So for 24 minutes, I took 4 pages of notes and just had him rip my ads. And so at the end of it, I was like, hey, man, I know we've been talking for 20 something minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. I'd love to message you in a week or two and just say, hey, here's how stuff's going. Do you have any recommendations? So can we cut it now? And would it be okay for me to do that? He was like, yeah, bro, of course. So we cut it. I never ended up even reaching back out because the ads popped. So that's what we were doing. So we were running Facebook ads to acquire clients, and we just started bringing in a ton of leads that way. And so my whole time was either spent on the phone with clients during work hours, and then after, when I didn't have calls, it was just all process stuff. And so every couple of weeks there would be lots of stuff that was breaking because we were growing really quickly.
Mm.
So I just had this master document, issues in the business, and then I would link to another document, and it would be 1 page for that one problem. So I would clearly define the problem and then clearly define how I thought I would fix it. And then I would print all these out. And then at the end of it, I'd be crossing out all my to-do list items on that piece, on that problem. And as soon as I was done, I would crumple it up, throw it away. Because in my mind, I was like, I'm throwing away my problems. As soon as I fix it, I'm done with it and on to the next.
So,
And so that was the routine.
how big of a percentage would you say you would attribute to you joining with that group, or at least being around these people, to your success in general? I
Yeah. So
guess,
I think that
and
was
there's
really,
hard work, and there's also the network side, and getting to know people and throwing yourself in that room. I'm a very huge proponent of getting to know people and throwing yourself in that room because really you start absorbing from the people you're watching, the people you're listening to, and the people you're around.
yeah.
Yeah. How big of a factor was that for you?
It was huge for me. So Agency Lab, their whole strategy was more so like the mechanism for acquiring clients through content online. That's why they had so many coaches and creators that were in their program.
Mhm.
It was helpful. Like the psychology really helped me. Um, that program was just nice having other guys to go hang out with because it does get really lonely. Nobody else understands. You can't talk with your friends and family. Like if you tell somebody, hey, I'm trying to get this business to 10K or 20K a month in the next few months, like your friends are going to think you've lost your mind. Your parents are going to tell you to lower your goals because that's unreasonable. Well, it's not unreasonable because there's people out there doing it.
Mm.
And so that was really nice for me because it was like, okay, well, I know these guys have went and made 60K in a month. Why can't I go do that?
And I think that
And so
that's
that was,
one of the biggest discouragements, by the way, for people in the beginning, is they have friends and family. They're like, what are you talking about? Or they'll see you working those 12, 13, 14-hour days and will continuously push you to stop. And what they
yep,
need to understand, I guess a lot of people that are listening, and whoever else, is that, I mean, just logically, if you think about it, right? You're trying to be in a life that is not very common. And so in order for you to be that, you have to do things that are not very common, right? So I mean, it's really only an equivalent to the amount of work and what the exception that you make for yourself are. Um, and yeah, that's a very big point here. I want to say, like, just getting used to not being the same as everybody else in the room, or your friends, or your family, or listening to them. Very important piece here, because you're not gonna do normal things for a very long time, and the results for them won't even show immediately. They're gonna show almost in a lag, right? They're gonna lag, and then they're gonna show. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and point it out, because that's a very big point for a lot of people.
Yep. Well, if you look at it statistically, less than 1% of people are going to make over $500,000 in a year. So
Yeah.
40K a month. So if you're listening to all of your friends and family, there's a good chance that they're 50K a year. So you're trying to do in 1 month what they're doing per year.
Hmm.
That is a completely different mindset.
And it's like,
So
what
yeah,
what
people have
process can you
wisdom,
tell
but
me that I don't know that you might know at
yeah,
your current status, right? It's like going to somebody that you don't want to be like and taking their advice. It just really doesn't make sense, right?
yep,
Uh,
exactly. And
anyways,
that's so
good to
hard. 'Cause yes, your parents and your family, they're going to have life experiences that you don't. And so they're going to have seen things, they're going to know things that you don't. But you just have to have crazy belief that, hey, they're good at this one aspect that doesn't apply here. And you just got to know that no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And then just try and find ways to get in the room with people that can give you tips and advice.
Yep. And that's also relating back to the main topic, which I kind of a little bit briefly pulled you out of the networking side, right? Which is putting yourself into those people. Um, Again, would you say that's more of a percentage than you putting in the work, or equally, or less, or how's that work?
Um, I feel like the work was a lot more important just because all the theory and all the advice in the world won't make a difference if you're not just doing like obscene amounts of activity.
Mm,
And so I was running ads, but I was also sending as many DMs per day as Facebook would allow and making as many posts per day as Facebook would let me before I'd get action blocked. Like I was doing everything I possibly could until they just stopped me. And then I would figure out another way to do outreach. So yeah, there's a quote: "The more hands you shake, the more money you make," which is really true. So if you feel like you have a really good product, you may very well have it, and you may not have success in the business. The only reason is you've just not told enough people what you do.
yeah.
And so, how do you get 100 conversations a day? If what you have is really good, find a way to talk to 100 of your ideal clients every day, and it is like unreasonable that you won't become successful.
And I always use this little example of having a song, right? Maybe it's like a Michael Jackson song that's never made light, right? And you're the only person that has it. Nobody in the world is gonna know that this thing exists, nor enjoy it, nor be able to even experience what it's like to be around it, right? And so, what somebody would do in that case is, this, obviously Michael Jackson's name would carry, so they would kind of just throw it out there, and it would kind of do its own marketing just off of precedent. But let's say there is no precedent, right? There's nothing, there's no history for that. Well, that person, or whoever it may be, would have to do this kind of marketing and talking to people and getting that. It's really, it's very natural for getting things up and running, right? It's just, it is what it is. You have to be very confident about your product too, and you'll get a lot of feedback, and
Yep.
people will tell you if your product sucks, which then you can go back to the kitchen and actually make those adjustments. And it's a beauty in that pain as well, right? It's not just pain. It's like constructive criticism. It's something that you can take back home and figure out how to make yourself better. It's not a bad thing. I want to walk you through the duration of you getting into learning the ads. And this just is not going to apply to ads in general. This is just to really any skill set. And right now, like, the entire world is moving towards AI and AI automation. Obviously, that's what my company specializes in. That's what we build for businesses. And I feel like there's going to be an even bigger gap for people wanting to learn AI automation and how to do this stuff. But the same core principles apply, whether you're learning AI, whether you're learning ads, whether you're learning funnels, whether you're learning marketing, whatever it is. Um, in that duration where you don't know what you're doing is working or not, and you're continuously making things and changing them and adjusting and that process. Walk me through what that looked like for you, right? That little duration before you found the winning formula.
Yep. So part of it again is just belief. So you have to believe other people have done this. So I'm going to figure out a way. And then you've got to make sure that you're checking the right metrics, like measuring the right things. Because, for example, if you run something by friends or family, they're going to tell you it looks great because they want to be there for you and supportive. Well, the market's who's really going to tell you. And so if you're not getting sales, you can say, oh, well, the product doesn't suck or whatever it may be. You got to make sure you're actually doing presentations with clients so that you can tell if your product's good or not. If you just have a disastrous close ratio, you can start to figure out where the issues are. Now, as far as the learning process, that's tough. I feel like a lot of it is just small daily progress, like feeling like you're learning one meaningful thing that is helping get the business better. And it's really tough because early on, if you have a new product and a new mechanism for generating leads and you're trying to close, there's a lot of different variables. And you have to get a lot of pieces right before you know if the product's good. So, for example, like let's say you make a new voice AI agent and you want to sell this to restaurants to answer the phone, take orders, whatever.
Which, by the
Well,
way, I want to let you know, the community that I run, that's really what I'm trying to show them how to do and teach them. We actually built a voice AI together, and right now they're contacting a lot of local businesses and showcasing it and saying, "Hey, we built you this. Why don't we get on a phone call?" And that little process, by the way, I'm not the most amazing at, right? I want to say just because it varies from personality to personality and how you should talk to people and things of that sort. But that's a great example, and I love that you brought that up. And I feel like it's going to be applicable to at least the people that are in that community that are watching.
yep.
Um,
So that's tough because they may make this great agent, build out all the automation. Well, you don't know if it's good or not. You don't know if it's useful or not yet until you actually talk to clients. And so typically you would set up an ad, get people to fill it out. Then they have to actually show to the call. And so you got to figure out because your show rate's going to be terrible for when you first start out. So it's like, okay, why aren't they showing to the call? Is it bad automation? Are they not bought in enough? Does it not solve that big of a pain point? And so once you have people showing to the call, then it's like you got to figure out price point, you got to figure out how to demo, et cetera. There's so much learning that goes into it.
mhm.
And so you just have to solve one problem at a time. So first would be lead gen, and then show rate, and then presentations, closing, and then fulfillment. So that's how you have to figure it out in order. A lot of times people just kind of popcorn to whatever feels
Mhm.
best, but you've got to define what is the actual bottleneck in the business right now that's stopping us from getting to the next level. And that's probably not going to be the fun thing you want to work on right now,
Mhm.
but it's just you got to be willing to put in the crap work for a while
Yeah.
to do the most important thing. Um, so for guys in that boat, if you want to really validate your offer, go sell it for free for a while. Just hit people up and say, hey, no cost. I just got to see if this works. Can we have a conversation?
Yep.
And then go from there.
Yep. And that ties into the idea of like you have to think about the market right now, right? Everybody's trying to sell what it is that they're trying to do, and they're trying to make money up front before actually doing anything to get there, right? They want you to really believe in them as much as they believe in themselves. And maybe it is a good product. Maybe they do have something that's very special. However, you gotta think about how many people are trying to do that. And you're in a class where there are really monsters like Tyler, right? Who will work 94-hour weeks and they will beat you to that point. um, the main thing you can do to really differentiate yourself is providing value up front for free. So what that does is, let's say I'm a business owner, I open up my email and I see something like maybe a list of a bunch of thumbnails, right? 10 different thumbnails for maybe 10 previous YouTube videos I did. This guy created those 10 thumbnails for free. I didn't have to pay him, right? And so he's asking me, hey, I can make thumbnails for you. I just created 10 of them. Why don't we talk about something where I can create a package for you and I continue to create these? That is a much higher reply rate from whoever is looking at it. And this kind of concept applies to everything, not just thumbnails, right? Literally everything. And it's actually what I taught the people that were building the voice AI agents is we actually built agents and started sending the number out to local businesses saying, hey, I built you this right now. When they actually did have, they had to go through and find all the information about the company, digest it in the knowledge base, and basically wrap the entire system prompt around these guys. So that way, when they called the phone number, they talked to a real voice AI receptionist ahead of anything, and they got that through an email, right? And so the idea here is to show that value up front, and that's really how you're going to differentiate yourself from basically everybody around you that's not wanting to put in that work ahead of time. And Alex Hermosi talks about this a lot, right? He in the beginning when he was first starting, it's like, hey, I went out and I literally just did this for free, and I was looking at feedback and looking at people and how they're wanting to move forward from that feedback. And that's also another great point. You mentioned 5 different things that people should do in order. I also thought that was very, very nice. I'm not in that little industry really, so I don't know what goes into running ads because I'm mainly not running ads. But I feel like a lot of people would have to go through a long discovery process and trial and error process to really figure out where and how they pivot. And most people don't even give themselves enough time in that process to figure out when to pivot, right? So they'll start it and they'll run into the very first bump or maybe
Yeah.
2 bumps, and then they'll shift, right? You have to think about the inertia of where you're going. It takes more energy trying to make that shift than just continuing on the path and kind of pressing forward. And I don't know if you want to, I guess, what's your outlook on that kind of
Yeah. So, kind of to go back to what you were talking about, the law of reciprocity really does rule. So, typically, if you give somebody something, they feel indebted to you and then they want to help back. And so, if you can figure out, even if it's not necessarily a problem related to exactly what you do, but say, for example, you're approaching restaurants, figure out some of their headaches and create a guide on how to help them fix those problems. And it needs to be good, not just chat gpt run it up, like actually put some effort into it, survey some restaurant owners and create solutions. People are going to, one, really appreciate it, and then two, see you as an expert. And so people want to work with experts have plans on how to fix their problems. So that's a big piece of it. But also too, like, just know it's probably going to suck for 6 to 12 months, but once you do it once, it's done. Like,
100%,
yes,
100%, yeah.
life's never easy and you're going to have to keep working. But if you put in all this effort one time, I promise you it's easier after that. Because right now, as my team drops new offers, like I have people I can send stuff to. So before I had to record the video, I had to try and edit it, I had to throw up the actual creative onto Meta and launch ads. I had to set up landing pages. I had to take sales calls. I don't have to do that anymore. I have people that do all that stuff. And so it's a lot faster and a lot easier for me to drop new offers now. And so I can test a whole lot faster and get to a new winning offer. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it's going to suck for 6 months just because you have to learn how to do all that stuff. But then once you start making money, once you know how to do it, you can more easily hire people, delegate, and then grow
Yep.
faster. So
And
just be willing to put your head down for a while.
And the way to kind of think about it is in the beginning, you're wearing a bunch of different hats, right? And your main goal in the year or the duration or however many you're doing this is to try to take off as many hats as possible. And so what you would do in that whiteboard is you will sit down and figure out the different kinds of verticals that would exist in the business, right? Maybe it is marketing and then creating the videos and then running the ads and then the campaign and then maybe creating the automated systems that will run in the background. Now you're wearing like 4 or 5 different hats. Um, and so in the beginning, when you're doing this stuff, you're probably gonna pick up a little bit from each one, or maybe you're gonna be good at all 5 of them, but that's not realistic for actually getting to a point where you're comfortable, right? And so the idea is to systemize each hat. So literally go to the whiteboard, figure out what those hats are, and in that duration, your goal is to systemize them so that way you can take off that hat and give it to somebody else. And so in a realistic world, you take off all 5 hats and you end up with the last one, which is your hat, what you're responsible for. And everybody else that's wearing the other hat is something that's what they're designed to do, right? And even that itself is a very long process but you can't even see that process before you get to master those hats yourself in that very first year or however long it is. Um, Tyler, walk me through that one little time period where you had to shift from maybe you did something and it worked only until it didn't. And then you had to make a shift. What went into your decision making? What did you look at to in order for you to understand what kind of shift you need to make? Most importantly, how long did you try something for before making a change? Because often a lot of people they jump between things before even giving themselves enough time to see if this thing is working or not. What's the key indicator for somebody who is an entrepreneur wanting to do something successfully and knowing when to make those shifts, those changes, and changes in direction?
Yeah. One piece of advice before I get into that, like you were talking about with systems and hats, I'd recommend everybody read a book called The E Myth. It teaches exactly about that. So it stands for the entrepreneur myth. And he teaches about all the different pieces of a business and how to define what to delegate. There's also the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. He talks about automate, eliminate, delegate. There's going to be some things automation can do. There's going to be some things that don't need to be done in general, some things you can hand off. And you want to find what fits in your area of genius, what you're good at, and what you like. You keep that, and then you want to start handing other stuff off. As far as when to know when to pivot, um, that's a tough one. Early on, you're not going to have the skill at whatever task it is. And so you've got to make sure you're proficient enough at that task before you pivot. And so you've got to be able to find a way to add value to people that are good at that thing to make sure that you're proficient or not. And so a podcast is a really great way to do it. Early on, when I was trying to have conversations with business owners, I made a podcast called the Upstate Business Spotlight. And
Mm-hmm.
that was how I would reach out to business owners, have a conversation with them. And then afterwards, I was able to ask them tips and questions about what I was trying to figure out. And I could get advice from people. So you've got to acquire enough knowledge. And then typically, I would set pretty firm KPIs, so key performance indicators. Um, some of the times when you're doing a new activity, let's say you're trying to send cold DMs to book appointments. 100 is just not going to be enough. Like you need to send at least 1,000 messages before you know, okay, is this viable? Is this working? But even then, if your intro sucks, nobody's going to answer. And so you got to figure out hooks and you got to figure out how do you get a micro commitment before you can then go to ask for the sale or ask for the appointment. So there's just a lot of learning that has to go into it. So it's tough to give like a firm number that way. Um, I would set it time based, like, hey, I'm going to try and do this for 30 days and I'm just going to focus hard on it. And then if it doesn't work, then I'm going to make sure I go find an expert and ask them why it didn't work.
The expert part here is also probably one of the important pieces because a lot of people don't know or they have a fear of that expert they look at. Although they think a lot of people are just fake experts trying to almost guru like, right? Take their money and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm an expert. Um, how do you know who to work with in terms of, looking for experts or people that will guide you? And how do you make that decision? I know you kind of threw yourself in the rooms.
Yeah, that's real tough. There are, if you go on Instagram and look at business owners, like if they're in a Lamborghini, they're probably not an expert. They probably rented that thing because they want you to buy their course. So that's real hard. Like I know successful dudes that, yeah, they have the watches, have the cars, and it's a byproduct of success. But a lot of times it's guys that are trying to flex. Um, Masterminds, I feel like are a really great way to find
Masterminds.
successful people, but the filter there is money. Like, yeah, you have to pay to get in the right room. So some of the things you could do is just do a lot of market research, try and find out who are some people in similar markets to you. So for example, like I didn't want to go ask a virtual assistant staffing company how they were acquiring clients because I didn't feel like they would tell me.
Yeah.
But I knew that the way that marketing agencies got clients was going to be the same way because it's a business to business offer. And so how do I figure out how those guys are doing it? Well, I can either buy their course, I can watch their videos, etc. So if you're an AI voice agency owner, SMMA is probably similar. Now, don't go to some of the gurus. There's some actual killers out there that have started marketing agencies and some really good value. And just dive into how those guys acquire clients. Like, obviously, their fulfillment is going to be different, but find out how they're acquiring clients and just know all marketing works if you do enough of it. Like, I've never had great success with cold email, but there's dudes with way bigger businesses than me that built it on the backs of cold email.
Mhm.
So cold DMs, they did work moderately well for me early on. So that does work. Running ads was what really took it off for me, but you may be in a vertical where ads aren't working, or the voice AI space, I'm sure at some point it'll get saturated. It's such a massive market that I wouldn't worry too much about that yet, but I know I see ads for it all the time now. So maybe ads aren't the best way. Maybe you just go talk to local businesses and tell them you'll make something for free and then get them on a retainer. So again, just try stuff, and all marketing works if you try it enough
All
times.
marketing works if you try it enough times. I love that sentence, man, because it
Yep.
really is. There's no bad marketing. There's only learning marketing, right? You market, you don't know what you're doing, you get bad feedback, you change something, you keep doing it. For the ads, how walk me through the ads, right? You're running, is it multiple ads at once? You're testing a bunch of them and then making changes. How's that look like
Yep.
for ads?
So the first most important thing you've got to know is the hook is above anything else. And so I've heard a lot of statistics where like 80% of your spend is spent on the hook or the headline. And so if you're doing a video ad, like the first 3 seconds matter. So explicitly call out exactly what the pain point is that your clients have. That way, bells go off. So for me, um, my ads that we ran for a long time, insurance agency owners, are you tired of being stuck behind your desk? If so, this video is for you. And so all I'm trying to do in that first 3 to 5 seconds is buy myself another 30 seconds. And then I explain what the business does. And so typically for these ads, like I started out just on my phone. So I'd be holding my cell phone and I'd be walking through Croatia or wherever. And so it felt like, oh, this is a different scenery. Now, you don't have to be out of the country. You can be, I don't know, some city near you, if I was trying to redo that. But call out exactly who it is, what their pain point is, and then dive into it. Now, outside of that, the way that I would do it is I would record one really good body and call to action in one take. And so I would explain exactly what the benefit is of my product and what I want their next step to be. So features tell, benefits sell. So don't tell them we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Tell them I help make your life easier this way, this way, this
Yep.
way. So give them the benefits and then what they need to do. So book a free strategy call below, or click below and I'll send you the full guide, whatever. And so I'd have one really good body, one really good CTA, put that all into one. And then I would record like 5 or 10 different hooks. And so each hook I would then just put on the front of those. And so now I've got 5 or 10 different ads.
Mhm.
Launch it at a pretty high ad spend. Like you need to do at least $100 a day just to test. And then
How
let
long?
Facebook do it.
How long do you test for? The week? Entire week or more?
Yeah, a week would be solid.
A week.
If you want, you can ram ad spend. You can do even more ad spend, and shorten that time period. But yeah, you need at least a few days of the market seeing what's working. And so ideally $100 through each creative. And so you'll be able to find out pretty quickly, all right, the market really likes this one. It doesn't like this one. Like if you launch 10 creatives, you're going to have 2 or 3 that get some leads that are okay. You're going to have 1 or 2 that stand out, and then you're going to have the rest that are trash. We'll cut off the 5 that suck, and then you've got 3 decent ones, 2 good ones. Consider if any of those decent ones are worth keeping or not. Maybe just shut them all off and keep the 2 winners.
Mhm.
And then backpedal into, all right, what is it about these ads that work the best? and just make more of those. But that's how I test it usually. And so step one is, can I get leads in? And then it is, okay, lead funnel. Like, are people converting? So you check clicks. Are they clicking? And then are they converting? And then from there, are they booking appointments? Like, what's going on? What do I need to change in order to keep improving
So,
this?
I mean, it's like analyzing what's working, what's not, and then pivoting based on that analysis and the metrics
Yep.
you're looking at when you're running ads. Also, I think a
Yep.
lot of people are not doing the several videos, but same body, and also they focus more on product features and they're not focusing on outcome. And that's a very important fact here because think about it this way, right? You can so much easily sell somebody the perfect version of their body instead of selling them the gym itself, right?
Yep.
Same thing when you walk into, like, say, a Lamborghini dealership. You can sell the dream of having one of those, maybe the network opportunities or whoever's, people coming up to you and be like, oh my God, you can sell that life better than you can sell having the Lamborghini. Like, yeah, it has this, all these gears and all this, crazy speed. Like, yeah, it has, the Lamborghini has that, but again, that's not as attractive as telling somebody, hey, if you walk out with this Lamborghini today, you might meet a CEO just because he's going to come up to you and ask you what do you do for a living, and then that's a potential business opportunity.
Right.
That's also a very, and I love that you brought that up. That's a very big thing that a lot of people really often miss. I mean, it seems like it's more common sense, but it's not. A lot of people just want to say, "Hey, my thing does this, and that." Kind of take yourself out of that, put yourself into it. Tyler, I thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
really do. You
put
you
it.
have been just giving gems back to back to back, and I feel like there is so much more, not just to explore but learn about the industry, and it's a never ending cycle, right? Tomorrow and today and yesterday and next month, you're probably still going to be learning, and nobody ever really
Yep.
tops it off. Um, I just want to say, if you're starting this journey in the first place, the two things are never stopping and and always improving, right? I'm just getting better. Tomorrow, if you can get a little bit better, and just never stopping, are gonna be. Again, if would you agree with those two
Yeah,
being
for sure.
probably? Is there anything I'm like missing outside of that picture?
Um, no, because if you don't stop, you're going to keep learning. So that's going to help there. I think that encompasses a lot of it. Just have the utmost faith that at some point, no matter what, you're going to figure it out, and just make sure that quitting isn't in your vocabulary.
Yep. And yeah, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I do want to say, if anybody is watching and wants VAs, Tyler, you are more than welcome to plug that up in here if you have like some sort of CTA for anybody that's watching that wants to work with you.
Yeah, if anybody wants a virtual assistant, if you just want business advice, hit us up. Scalemyops.com is our website. Fill out a form on there, and my team will make sure it gets to me, and I'll help any way I can.
There you go. And you're in good hands because the person who started it all was 94 hours a week, by the way. Crazy, right? You can't take that away from anybody. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, enjoyed it.